Hey folks, David Stewart here. Time to talk a little bit more about minor keys. I had an intro video about this last time, and now it's time to expand on that. And what I want to talk about today, natural harmonic and melodic minor, three different forms of the minor scale. And I'm going to preface this with two things. First of all, if you want to learn these on guitar, I do have a Segovia scale down below that you can learn all three different forms within the Segovia melodic minor pattern, which I think is pretty useful. The second thing is these don't, from a theoretical perspective, actually exist. Music students have been practicing these forms for a very, very long time. However, from a theory perspective, we don't write music in natural harmonic or melodic minor. We write music in minor, and that contains all three of those forms and is also different from all three of those forms. The proper way to think about a minor key from a theoretical perspective is an inversion of the relationships of that tonic chord. That 5-6 and 6-5 relationship is turned back around to be a 6-5-5-6, which obscures the undertones. When we have a major chord, we have an undertone, an implied undertone, a resonant tone that our mind can almost perceive as being strongly related to all three of those pitches. When we invert the relationship, it's not there anymore. We've obscured the undertone and we've pushed those overtones into a higher register, which makes it sound darker and a little bit more dissonant. That's really what minor is from a theory perspective. Now, music students practice these because I think they're useful in some senses, to technically understand the instrument and how to play minor, perhaps how to sight read minor. Why am I talking about this is probably the question you might be asking. Why am I talking about natural harmonic and melodic minor if I don't really think they exist? And the answer is because other people think they exist. You may be an AP music theory student, or you may be taking theory classes at a university, or you may just be involved with other musicians who do think of minor in this way. And while they're not correct from a historical perspective, you need to be able to interact with them and understand what they're talking about. And I think it's useful sometimes to look at how these possibilities can generate different harmonies. But if you look in context, in any given moment, you may be using these differently or within the same composition to produce different effects. And remember, we generate theory out of the music. Theory is not a prescription for how music ought to work, just like how gravity is a description of how stellar objects interact, not a description of how that we are commanding them to interact. So you don't take theory and make yourself generate music from it. Theory is what's used to understand music that's already been composed in a sense. So let's go through them real quick. First of all, natural minor is the same as an Aeolian mode, and it would be no alterations to the minor scale. You can find a minor scale a couple of ways. You can take a major scale, flat to 3, 6, and 7, and you're going to get a natural minor scale. The other way to look at it is through what's called the relative. So that's the parallel. If you want to create a parallel minor, take a major scale, A major, flat the 3, the 6, the 7. You get a minor scale. That's called parallel minor, same tonic. Relative minor would be same key signature, different tonic. So if we have the same key signature as C major, we get A minor. And that means that if you start on the 6th scale degree of any major scale, you're going to get the relative minor. And I can actually write that down for you so you could be looking at it while you're watching the video. So relative minor is the 6th scale degree. So 6th scale degree. Or we could think of it as same key signature. Okay, sorry for the bad handwriting. I get like professor handwriting. Parallel minor is same tonic. Same tonic note, different tonic chord. Flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. Now, if we're taking the relative minor of C, we get A minor. That's if you go down 2 notes, C, B, A, down to the 6th scale degree. Useful way to think about it. Now, from this natural minor, there's a couple of different alterations we could make to produce a couple of different effects. Down here, I've also written all the chords out that you get in a normal, quote, natural minor form of the scale. If you create triads on each scale degree, you get a minor 1, diminished 2, major 3, minor 4, minor 5, major 6, major 7, okay, from these. Now, if I want to make harmonic, this is usually called harmonic, and you'll see why. I'm going to sharp the 7. I'm going to raise the 7th. I already wrote it in there. And if we make G sharp, and this is in bass clef, remember, and we populate all our G sharps, we're going to get some different chords entirely. And the main chord that's different that we really focus on is the 5 becomes a major 5. That's really the harmony. So rather than having this sort of, which ends up, to me, natural minor, which is the same as Aeolian mode, and we'll get to that when I actually talk about modes, always has a little bit of a sailor song quality to me. Sounds a little sailor songy to me, little modal, which is fine. But once we change it to a major 5, we have a much stronger cadence from 5 to 1. That's why we call it harmonic minor, is that it's there to change the harmony, make the harmony stronger. If you watch the first video, you'll know that if you're just inverting the relationship of the tonic chord to make the thing darker, this is in the normal form of minor. And indeed, most composers in the common practice period from the Baroque all the way up until now, they almost never use the natural minor form unless they're trying to play something that's specifically modal. If you're looking for something that says minor, there they say it's, symphony number whatever in minor, it's probably going to be in the least harmonic minor. You're going to have major 5 chords because those are strong. Unless you want to avoid a strong cadence, in which case you might have a minor 5 chord that goes through to something else. Again, you mix these together. You don't use just one or the other in a composition. You don't say, well, this is in harmonic minor. It's like it's in minor. It can be a minor 5 or it can be a major 5. But we also get a couple of other interesting ones. When we raise the 5th on a major chord, what you end up getting is what's called an augmented chord. An augmented chord has a sharp 5 to it. And just to demonstrate this is a C, and we raise it to a G sharp. Get a little closer to C. Raise it to a G sharp. It becomes quite a dissonant chord. That's a really dissonant addition to that minor fill. It can be quite a good predominant chord if you set it up right. Then you also get from a major 7th, you get that when you raise the bottom, you actually get a diminished sound, because this condenses it to a 6-5-6-5 relationship, or a minor third and a minor third, which makes a diminished chord. So you end up with a G sharp diminished chord to sort of round this out. That creates a harmonic palette that we might call harmonic minor. Melodic minor, what you do is you actually raise, compared to natural, again this is compared to natural, you raise the 7th and you raise the 6th on the way up the scale. So as you're ascending up to tonic, you raise the 6th and you raise the 7th, okay, like that. So you play F sharp and G sharp, and that would sound like this. Here's natural. Here's harmonic. Here's melodic. Now here's the other thing about melodic is you lower those on the way down. So on the way down, you lower the 7th, you lower the 6th. Okay, and when we compare this to our natural minor, thinking about it as an inversion of the relationship, we'll see that melodic minor is one of the things that sort of naturally emerges when we just reverse that relationship. We have all those relationships in the major key that we can end up using. Now we call it melodic because it's usually used to avoid something very, very particular that happens when you create a harmonic minor scale. And that is, there's a gap between an F and a G sharp. And you can see it right here. It's a step and a half. And that might sound a little Middle Eastern to you, because in Indian music and Middle Eastern music, that minor third sound is not avoided. It's used as part of the music as a color, and they like it. And sometimes Western European composers would use this this sound to create something a little bit exotic, to like kind of reference the Orient as they thought of it then. But we may not want that sound, and indeed a lot of Western Europeans didn't want that. So what they did is they raised the F to an F sharp. Then you had a nice no step and a half leap between 2 scale degrees. Instead you had a whole step, 2 whole steps, and a half step. And then when you go back down, you darken it on the way down usually. So you may play that would be an example of use of melodic minor 4, okay? When you're composing the music, though, you're not going to necessarily think of it in this way. And indeed, most of the time, you're not going to use melodic minor to generate all the different chords. But if we went ahead and we made the F sharps, if we populated all these F sharps across the board here, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, we get a pretty different quality. First of all, the 2 diminished stops being a 2 diminished and just becomes a 2 minor. I'll draw them down there. How about that? So you guys can still see it. The 4 minor becomes a 4 major because we're raising the third. The 6 major becomes a 6 diminished. So if you were to just use all the melodic minor form to generate the chords, you get a really actually weird and dissonant couple chords in there. You get a minor 1, a diminished, a minor 1, a minor 2, an augmented 3, a major 4, major 5, diminished 6, diminished 7. You get 2 different diminished chords right in a row. However, you're not usually going to generate too much harmony using just an F sharp. You might do it in a moment, but the point is to avoid a 1.5-step leap in the melody. So most often this F sharp is what's called a passing tone or a non-harmonic tone. We'll talk about that when we get to non-harmonic tones. All these things build. So if there's not 100% of all the information you need right now, just wait, we'll get to it. So that's your different forms of minor: natural, harmonic, and melodic. They don't exist from a theoretical perspective as a thing that you do that's different. There's really just minor, and you're using all of them as much as you want. So when you're composing a piece of music, you can raise the 7th, you can lower the 7th. The best way to think about it is just that these 2 scale degrees are flexible. These are flexible. Okay? You can have them be raised, you can have them be lowered. And if it's a minor key with flats, you raise it by getting rid of the flat, just by the way. So they're flexible. You can have to be raised or lowered depending on what chord sound you want in the moment or what you want to do melodically. And that's really how minor works, because what really matters is the inversion of the relationships of the 1 chord to get rid of the undertones. And the more you do that, the more you're going to get that dark sound of minor. Hopefully this has been helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see in here down below. I'll continue this series as long as I can manage it without getting out of my league or too bored, which it could indeed be a very, very long time, as I really enjoy music theory. And if you want to support the channel, by the way, one of the best things you can do is buy a book. That gives you something that you get it. It gives you a product, and it helps support me and keep me going. I do have a new book coming out this summer, if you're watching this in 2017, called The Water of Awakening, and I'll have information about that as it comes forward. If you're watching it far in the future, you can check out the links down below for my Amazon pages and probably find it there. I really, really appreciate your support, and I'll see you next time. Just to real quickly, these terms: relative minor, 6th scale degree, same key signature. Parallel minor, same tonic, same starting note. Natural is you can take a major scale, flat to 3, 6, and 7, you get a natural minor scale. Same as Aeolian. Harmonic, raise the 6th, melodic, raise the 6th and 7th on the way up, flat them on the way down. You guys have a great day.